Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, we have Chip Perry. He's the new CEO of A to Z Sync, and we have Natasha Geiner. She's the head of product at A to Z Sync. Natasha, Chip, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having us, Brian.
Hey, Brian, glad to be with you today.
Well, I am so excited that you are now part of the A to Z Sync team, Chip. If my listeners remember, over a year ago, I visited the Champ Honda store and I recorded a video. I did some social media posting, and I stated at that time, and it hasn't changed, that the retail experience at Champ Honda, the technology, the whole showroom layout was best in class when it comes to a customer experience. And now, a year and a half later, Chip, you decided to lead this company. Why choose A to Z Sync?
Well, thank you, Brian. I'm thrilled to be here in Denver working with Natasha and the team and with Aaron Wallace, who's the founder of the company, who runs the Champ Automotive Group. I chose this opportunity because it's attacking and addressing the most important opportunity in automotive retail, which is improvement of the in-store customer experience. So many people for so many years have complained about it. It's become an object of criticism and derision from both consumers and by dealers. Everybody points at it and says that thing needs to be improved, needs to be fixed, needs to be modernized. And when I came to Denver, like you did, and saw the magic of how single point of contact selling with a strong technology enablement provided by A to Z was working in the store, and then I also visited other clients of A to Z around the country, I concluded, wow, this is the future. This is the future of automotive retail. And I wanted to be part of it. That's why I'm here.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. The COVID crisis really was a wake-up call for a lot of the dealers who were resistant to change. Obviously, there was a whole group of dealers who saw the need to embrace remote retailing, to simplify the showroom experience, to be more transparent. And then when COVID came and the showroom no longer became the destination where a transaction happened, wow, man, everything got thrown out the window. Here's what I believe has happened is that now that we know that automotive retail can be done in many different ways and even at higher profitability, we need to catch our breath and now, come up with a plan. What is a sustainable customer experience that brings the dealer additional profits? Natasha, let me throw a question at you. For people who are not familiar with A to Z Sync, are you a software company? Are you a sales process coaching company? How would you describe it?
I think that's a wonderful question. And a quick answer is we're both. When we first got started, we quickly realized that simply being a software company wasn't going to solve the problem we were trying to solve, which is change the way cars are sold in the showroom. So we needed to come at it on both sides. We needed to help the dealers understand and sustain their transition, and then to support it with our technology platform. So we became both.
Well, I love the fact that you have a proven process in place, and we're going to get to that later, that takes the fear away from a dealer who knows they have to improve their customer experience. But before we get to that, let me just make a statement to all our listeners today. When a friend of mine wants to buy a car, this is what I do. Oh, what brand do you want? And they tell me, and then I figure out, okay, who in my dealer network is the closest, and I call up the owner or the general manager and I say, listen, my friend wants to buy a car. This is what they want. Bing, bing, bing. And literally in minutes, okay, here's the best deal. I tell my friend, all right, here is the deal. Go in and it will be exactly as I emailed you. Effectively, what I've created is a single point of contact. And Chip, we know that a single point of contact creates the best possible outcomes from the customer experience. Why do you think so many dealers have fought the concept of a single point of contact, even though the financial benefits are more clear today than ever?
Well, the single point of contact does help reduce time. It takes steps out of the process. It streamlines, simplifies, automates a lot of the components of a car deal. At the same time, it requires a lot of change, organizational change. So instead of having the back and forth and waiting for F&I and the traditional approach, you have to reorganize your store around this idea of having one person be in charge of the deal and have that person be supported by team leaders and sales managers and others. But to put that one person in charge requires a big leap of organizational change. And also, I think there's concern around whether F&I income can be produced by a person who's not an F&I expert. And so what we've learned is that the dealers who embrace this do reduce time significantly, do make the process more efficient, do reduce staffing costs, but they also are able to, because of the transparency of the process, the relationship that gets built by the client advisor with the customer, and very importantly, the training around F&I products and finance generally, enables the client advisor to complete the deal in a way that produces as good or better F&I income after the transition than most traditional dealers have before moving to SPOC. So that's one of the things that got me very excited when I saw that result, that the fact that time gets saved, customer satisfaction is improved, as employees like this, the client advisor job is a very rich job, and very importantly, the financial performance of the store is very strong. And the ones that I was able to speak to, Champ's performance is very strong, and other A to Z clients are very happy with their results after making the transition. So the trifecta of improved customer satisfaction, improved employee satisfaction, improved financial performance, overcomes the fear, hopefully, of making all these changes.
Well, Chip, there are going to be some dealers, maybe even some F&I managers listening to today's podcast, and they're going to call, a red card. They're going to say, Chip, there's no way that a sales force of 20, 30, 40, or 50 sales associates could be as profitable with F&I. But Natasha, you came from retail. You were in the F&I office, and you probably felt the same way before A to Z Sync was developed and the training investment was perfected. What would you say to F&I managers? You were there, you were behind the desk. What would you tell them if they have any doubts that you could have 40 sales associates with equal or higher PVR?
I say not only is it possible, it is absolutely the case based on the proven results. And the F&I managers, as great as they are at the work that they do, if they can change their mindset to the point where they're comfortable training their salespeople how to perform the finance numbers and give them that skill set, they still become one of the most important people in the company, because they become the trainers, they become the managers and the supporting people within this process, not necessarily the customer facing the same way. And you're absolutely right, Brian. I was one of the biggest naysayers because I was in the finance office when the changeover happened. And I bet Aaron that this is not possible. And I was proven very wrong. So here I am spending the rest of my time now making the change to the industry, because not only do I believe, I leave it every single day now.
Well, I want to talk about one thing that we haven't talked about. It's the cancer in automotive retail, which is this constant turnover, the challenge to find competent workers, the challenge to get women into retail. And one of the things that I saw when I visited Champ Honda, as I talked to the training team, is that with a single point of contact running the A to Z Sync software, in your experience now, just not at Champ, but in other stores that are using the technology, you were able to attract a wider group of employees, that retention was higher, their job satisfaction or their feeling of autonomy was higher. So, Natasha, wouldn't you say if you could fix the retention, then training people on F&I makes sense if they're going to stay and enjoy the job? I can see where maybe some dealers like, hey, Brian, with the turnover we have, we would just be eaten alive in training costs. But that's not what you're seeing when you implement your single point of contact with your platform, with your training. How do you tell dealers what they're missing in an untapped labor force in their local market?
Sure, absolutely. Typically, the dealers go out and hire the most experienced salespeople in the car industry they can find, the most experienced desk managers, finance managers, etc. And those people are at a premium and they come at a cost. Whereas in this model, we don't look for car people. We actually prefer not to have car people. We look for people in the hospitality industry, people that are used to customer service. They are there to become client advisors. So the pool of people that you open it up to are a lot of times younger. They don't have the same conception about not being in the automotive industry. They're not there to negotiate for the best deal. They're there to serve the customer. So that difference in the mindset opens it up to quite a bit. And so the people you're looking for are people just in the retail industry, younger, people that come from the bank, really people that execute the sales process the way it's been designed.
I would also add, Brian, that the scope of the client advisor job is very interesting. Instead of just reviewing a car with a customer and then getting to first pencil and then backing away, in the SPOC world, single point of contact world, the relationship starts with the lead actually coming into the store, which is typically assigned to a client advisor to bring the customer in, set the appointment, and then so that requires lead handling skills, which many salespeople enjoy. Some don't, but many enjoy. And then there's the whole process of wants and needs discovery, taking the customer through the test drive, fleshing out the basic deal, coming to agreement on that, then talking about the details of finance, taking credit, application, getting that rolling while also talking about F&I products, and then completing the deal and shaking hands at the end. The fact that that's such a much broader job, but that is enabled by all this technology and training. So, a bright up and coming person from outside the industry can actually do this. They come from retail, they come from service industries, they come from process-oriented backgrounds, including law enforcement. So a wide variety of people are capable of doing this, and it's a very interesting job. So they don't tend to turn over like a traditional sales role does. So that's pretty exciting to see that the salespeople, the client advisors really like the job, and it reduces this, it helps address the dealer's very tough structural problem of constant recruiting because of the high turnover. 70% is typical. We see our clients having 10% or less turnover in the frontline sales role, and that just doesn't happen because the dealerships are putting thumbtacks through the the shoes of the people, it's because they want to stay.
Well, one of the, jokes we have, in the auto industry, we joke about it, but it's sad, is, the first day of a new hire can be such a disaster. Managers putting out fires, and oftentimes it's like, well, just sit in front of this computer and take these online courses. You need to get product certified, and there's some videos here, and then they throw them in front of the CRM, and there's, okay, here's your quick lesson on the CRM, and great, get going. And Natasha, we can joke all day long about that, but if we don't get serious that the automotive retail industry is a serious job, we're never going to create a consistent, reliable customer experience at the average dealer who's using A to Z Sync. How much time, and maybe I want to use this, how many days of training do you recommend before they can complete, a transaction pretty much start to finish?
An average is about 30 days. And so think about a training program in a way in which you onboard a person that is completely new to the automotive industry. You take them through all the training about the sales process, the finance process, buying process, and then you take them through the actual training of the OEM itself. And then about 3 weeks after that, you offboard them with a certification process, and then you let them shadow somebody on the floor. And then and only then do you give them the opportunity to start fresh and start selling vehicles without assistance. So 30 days is an average time frame that we spend and invest in our client advisor to be comfortable in selling the vehicle and helping the clients through the process.
And I know, Natasha, that labor markets really vary from, urban areas to suburban areas. But one of the points you brought is that, and Chip mentioned it, with significantly lower turnover, which I confirmed when I visited Champ a year and a half ago. But you have a wider audience of people you can hire. Obviously, like when I see somebody at Marriott that's just awesome, I'm like, man, that person got to go work for a car dealer. Meaning we run into people in customer service experiences that if they didn't have to stand on the point, if they didn't have to run after people, if things were more transparent and collaborative, they would shine in automotive. What do these people make? I think one of the concerns that dealers have, hold on, Brian, you're telling me this is better and I'm going to save labor and it's going to be better for the customer. I want to make more money. But what are these sales associates making? How do you answer that question? Because I guess there's some concerns. Will this lower existing pay plans? Will this increase the average salary? How would you answer that question for dealers who are listening today?
From the client advisor standpoint, it definitely increases their overall salary. And when I say that, we no longer have the variable expense for the finance office, but there's still a benefit to the client advisor for selling the finance products. So they're heavily incentivized on selling accessories, selling the finance products, maintaining certain levels of the KPIs, certain levels of number of vehicles sold. So they start getting paid on all aspects of the deal. So they no longer get paid on the minis, as we refer to them in the automotive business, on new cars, because the margins are simply not there. But they definitely get paid more overall because they get paid on all aspects of a typical car deal.
So we have less turnover. As Chip mentioned, the experience for the sales associate is more fulfilling because they're really consultating through the entire process. They're seeing the joy on the customer's face as they're driving off. So, Chip, there's still dealers who are going to be listening to this podcast and saying, I don't believe it. Can you talk about the proven roadmap? One of the reasons why you went to A to Z is that not only did this work at Champ, but you have other dealer groups that are using this. If we're saying this is better, as you mentioned, the trifecta. What does this established roadmap look like? Because, well, maybe not all dealers want to change. Yeah, everyone wants to reduce costs. Everyone likes to reduce employee turnover. But I would say that this platform isn't for every dealer. It's for dealers who want to be more transparent, more collaborative, have a more sustainable model at a more sustainable financial pace. What does that roadmap look like, Chip?
Well, every dealer is a little different from their starting point. So what we do is a readiness assessment of a client who's really intrigued and interested in this idea. So we come spend a couple days at the store interviewing the staff, understanding the current processes, the culture of the store. And then depending on what we find, we help the client with an implementation roadmap that is based upon their starting point, as well as what we know about the critical organizational change elements and building blocks that they're going to have to go through. So what we've done is we've codified what new job descriptions need to look like. We have pay plan suggestions we make, workflow process diagrams, training materials. So depending on the size of a dealership, how many salespeople are involved, what the volume is, also the existing retail process there, how far along are they towards single point of contact or not. We really study the individual situation of the dealer and then customize a roadmap to their particular needs. There is no one size fits all here. Every dealer is different, and the software doesn't get shrink wrapped and drop shipped into the dealership and we come in for 2 days and we're done. It's a little more complicated than that to help a dealer through the significant change. Because what's happening here is there's a siloed organization today with many steps, and we're taking down those silos and putting one person in charge, the dealer is, and a lot of things have to change organizationally and workflow process-wise to make that happen. So a big part of the effort in the last 6 to 8 months has been codifying the experience of Champ and our other clients around the country, so that we can walk into a store with a set of materials that help them see quickly how this implementation roadmap could be customized for their particular situation.
That's great. And Natasha, let me ask a question. When a dealer goes through this roadmap, and of course, and we're going to talk about the software. I don't want to miss explaining how the software is such a key foundational element to the customer experience, but I want to finish what Chip mentions about the roadmap. So you come in, you do an assessment, you decide where they need to start, and you have now the pay plans, the training, you have everything. How long does it take? Let's just say the store is selling 200 new and 200 used. There are 400 cars, and they're going to call you up as a result of this podcast, and they're going to ask a few questions like, how does it work and how much does it cost and how long will it take for us to really have a unified, consistent experience? What's that timeline? What's the end point? Is it a 6 months? Is it 9 months? Is it a full year? Because I want to make sure that dealers understand that the financial benefits, the turnover, all those things are absolutely what they need to be relevant long term. But they're going to be also a candidate if they're willing to roll up their sleeves and put into work. What does that timeline overall look like?
I think there's really no size fits all, truly, Brian. Like Chip mentioned before, the roadmap is really as quickly and efficiently as the dealer is looking to move forward, but could be plus or minus 3 months. It could be a 6-month total transition, and it could take as long as 9 months. We had some dealers that really decided to jump into it head first, and they wanted to make all the changes all at one time, and we were there to support them in that transition. And some dealers want to do things slowly and at their own pace. So there's really not a timeline that we advise to keep to. It's more so what's most comfortable for them to make the transition that they feel like they can execute with our support.
A typical situation might be something like when a dealer says, yes, I want to do this. We would take a month to do the technology integrations while we're in parallel starting to orient the dealership to the processes to use single point of contact. And then after that month of technical setup and early training, another month of practicing on the system in their store. Then the magic moment, go live, comes, and then we typically see 3 to 5 months of very close interaction between our team and the dealership's team to help them over through all the transition issues. But it's overall, can be as fast as 2 months, can also be 3 to 4 months to get through the transition.
Great.
Until they're up and running and feeling comfortable, F&I has come back to a very high level or better than where they were before, and everyone's feeling comfortable with the new process.
Great. That makes sense because people are always kind of trying to envision what the process, and we didn't talk too much about the software. And as Natasha mentioned, you're not a software shrink wrap, send it to you, good luck, or a coach that comes in and tries to work with 12 different pieces of technology. The A to Z Sync platform itself is remarkable. I love the way that Chump Honda has their showroom set up. 50 or 60 inch TV, 2 benches and a nice kiosk where the client advisor and the customer can sit, and the software walks through the needs assessment, walks through all of the process. Natasha, it was amazing that somebody was able to take a consistent process and still plug in some of the pieces that the dealer is using. So on the technical side, if the A to Z Sync software really is the step-by-step process that all sales associates use to create a consistent and wow customer experience, what if somebody has VIN Solution CRM or eLeads? What if they're using a certain desking tool? How does A to Z Sync work within the ecosystem of technology? And I'm specifically talking about DMS, CRM, and desking tools.
Sure, that's a great question. So we like to think of ourselves as Switzerland of technology integrations because we truly are there to support the client with the systems that they're using. So we have gone through great lengths of integrating with the systems you just mentioned. We integrated with eLeads and VIN Solutions and DealerTrack and CDK, and I can go on for a long time with all the integrations we do. But as far as the desking tool is concerned, we are the desking tool. So we replaced the one that the dealer uses within our process, which is designed for a client advisor that truly simplifies the presentation to the client. So we take our platform and integrate it to all the other pieces of technology that the dealer uses. So we become the ultimate interface before the client and the client advisor during the entire customer journey. And then we push the data in and out of different systems that the dealer uses on the back end of their process.
So for dealers who are listening and your ears are perking up, hold on, you're going to hold my hand and I'm going to be able to lower my labor costs because single point of contact eliminates a lot of the back and forth and the miscues. I'm going to increase my retention. I'm going to be more profitable, and I don't have to do this alone. There's some dealers who are skeptical, and they're like, okay, but you're not telling me something. You're not telling me something. So, Chip, what other leadership commitment do you believe the ideal customer for you is? Like, everyone wants to be more profitable, but it doesn't come without work. So for the listeners today who want to learn more, what's one qualification you'd like to add? Because it's not just about making more money.
You're right, Brian. The benefits are huge. They're amazing for dealers who actually embrace this and push through all the changes necessary to implement it. At the same time, it requires on the part of the dealer the willingness to stay the course, make a commitment, stay focused on these changes, because change is difficult for anybody. I think in addition to being willing to undertake this amount of change, the other big thing that is needed here is a dealer who wants to, is driven and is passionate about improving the customer experience, taking time out of it. But because the single point of contact approach puts one person in charge, and inherently through the collaborative approach and through the way data is presented by the A to Z software platform, it requires a high degree of transparency to the customer. Everything is laid out in very common sense, easy to understand terms, and without the back and forth, you don't have to necessarily be one price, but you need to be market priced, and you have to be willing to embrace the entire deal being very transparent, as opposed to the normal sort of cat and mouse game that happens both in first pencil and finance and in F&I product presentation. So that transparency factor is a big one, we think, in driving the success of the dealers who really want to embrace this. So a dealer who is willing to undertake significant change, to drive time out of the process, take steps out, improve efficiency, but at the same time is willing to be transparent while they're doing it, is a really key criterion for the kind of dealer we're looking for.
And I appreciate that, Chip, because I couldn't agree more. And I want to make a statement because I believe that single point of contact is the biggest opportunity for financial improvement that a dealer has. Obviously, margins aren't going up, competition's increasing, just overall operating costs, whether we think it's a tax environment change. But over and over, as I've traveled the country and now more remotely, I'm hearing stories about single point of contact success. And those of you who attended DMSC, go back and listen to Gina Walsh from the Cavalli Group. When they went to a single point of contact in their California stores, the cost per vehicle sold, which included their labor cost, was reduced by 33%. This is someone who's not on A to Z Sync. I'm just making the point that the single point of contact is staring you right in the face. And even though you may fear change, when somebody says 33% lower cost, including labor, to sell a vehicle and add lower retention and add higher customer satisfaction, we as an industry have to be really looking in the mirror and saying, hey, I don't know how to get there, but if companies like A to Z Sync will hold my hand, if they've done the heavy lifting with technology integrations, if they already have the roadmap, well, I'm going to give it a shot, meaning get a demo. Natasha, what's the best way for dealership managers, dealer principals who are listening to today's podcast to schedule a demo to see what that whole product roadmap and scope looks like?
Sure, there's a couple different ways. You are welcome to email us directly at info@a2zsync.com. There's also our phone number on our website, and I strongly encourage you to go there to see how we work through the process at a2zsync.com. And one thing that we always like to do is speak to the dealer about what they're looking to make the changes for. What are their core motivations and what are their KPIs and what does this success look like to them? So we would love to encourage dealers to have those conversations with us at the same time as we are reviewing the software. So allow us a little bit of time for the demo so we can really ask the right questions to help you with moving forward.
Well, Chip, I'm going to leave the last word to you. You've been a wonderful advocate for me over the years. I've always appreciated your support and encouragement to continually educating dealers, holding our industry accountable. I'm so glad that you are now at the forefront of change in automotive retail. Chip, what's one thing that you would like dealer principals to hear about your vision for the future of automotive retail?
Well, I think that one thing I would say is that um, as much as the marketing side of the industry has changed over the last 20 years, so much more technology, so many more tools are available to dealers, and television and newspaper have fallen by the wayside compared to digital. Tremendous change on the marketing side. You know, and there's a strong interest in online car sales and digital retailing as a way of helping consumers make a transition and from home to showroom. I think that the biggest thing that strikes me is that what happens in the store fundamentally hasn't changed nearly as much as consumer desires around a better experience have changed, and around how marketing techniques have changed. The in-store experience is more like it was 10, 20, 30 years ago than any of those other things are like they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I think what the industry has reached a point now where the in-store experience is the thing that's standing in the way of much higher customer satisfaction, dealer efficiency. And now's the time to really focus on an inside-out reinvention of how dealers sell cars. Now's the time. And I'm really glad to be here at A to Z Sync, working with Natasha and Aaron Wallace and our current clients, and learning from them and helping to lead this charge. So thank you for the opportunity to share our status with your listenership. We're excited to be able to do this and look forward to talking to dealers over time about their interest in making this big move towards single point of contact.
Yes, and let me add something, is that single point of contact is a philosophy that the customer experience rules, number one, and whether you're in a stay at home or, COVID crisis, single point of contact works even better, obviously, because of the tools we have today, like video conferencing. But when you have the tools in place that guide the sales associate through each step of the way, whether it's remote with screen share or video conferencing, or whether it's in the store face to face, the single point of contact with the right technology platform is the trifecta. And I love that. I'm going to end on that as a reminder. It is going to increase customer satisfaction. It's going to lower your operating costs. It's going to increase your retention. And those are the magic areas of opportunity that any NADA or NCM 20 group is looking to achieve. And it was sitting right in front of our eyes. So for our listeners, remember, it's A and then the number 2, sync.com, A to Z, A2Z sync.com. So I'll also have that website URL in the comments, so it's easy for you to find the website. Natasha, Chip, thank you so much for being on the show. And if this is the first time you're listening to one of my podcasts, you should know that every week I release a new interview with industry leaders, innovators, and people that are trying to improve the automotive retail experience. And of course, Natasha and Chip are ideal as they're on the cutting edge. And keep in mind that in November, the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit this year will be a virtual event. So unfortunately, with Florida's conditions with COVID crisis, we do not feel comfortable encouraging people to fly into Florida. So with the great success of the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference virtual live stream, we are going virtual again in November. So please visit automotiveattributionsummit.com. Get your tickets while the early bird prices are there. And we're going to be talking about a lot of amazing topics, including the data and analytics associated with a modern retail sales strategy, including the benefits of single point of contact. So what are you waiting for? Get registered for the AAA Summit in November. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you in the future on another podcast session.